Hello, today we're going to make this, what I like to call the geo scarf. It's got a lot of holes, but it looks really lovely when it's wrapped around you. And it has a twisted fringe and just an easy 6-row pattern repeat. So now let's get started.
So I use the seashell yarn, which is a cotton, bamboo and linen. I used 6 balls for the wrap, which was about 900 meters and 984 yards. And for the blue scarf, I used the Hobbii Olivin, which is a cotton and linen mix. I used about 5 balls, which is 680 yards and 625 meters. You can use any other fingering weight yarn if you like. So let's get started. Now I also used a 3.5mm clover hook. You can use a larger size if your tension is tight, like a 4mm hook, like this purple one. And I also used some scissors and a tapestry needle. So let's get on to the pattern.
So first of all, make your decision whether you'd prefer a narrower scarf or a kind of a wider wrap, which it can be a scarf. You can fold it in half. And to start off with, just tie a knot around your hook. If you're going to make the scarf, I chained 301 stitches, or for the slightly longer and wider wrap, I chained 361 stitches. So you'll end up with 300 stitches for the scarf or 360 stitches for the wrap. So it's really up to you, and of course you can make it any length. So start chaining, because you're going to need approximately 300 or 360 if you'd like it a little longer. I'm going to pause there until we end up with our 300 stitches. So now I've completed my 300 chain, and you've probably realized by now, which I did not mention before, we are making this scarf sideways or lengthways. So you're actually doing not that many rows, but they're going to be extremely long rows, which does make it a very good project to crochet while you're watching TV, which is always a high priority for me. So if you would like the complete PDF pattern, please click on the link below in the description, and that'll take you straight to where you can purchase the pattern. You can purchase it from Etsy, Ravelry, my own website, Love Crafts, not in that order. Please choose my website. And it's also available on PayHip and many other places. Just check below. Righto, so we're going to start. Now the first section is very easy. You're just working on 5 double crochet rows. So you literally just start off by skipping 1 stitch and working into the second stitch. I'm going to move this chain out of the way because it's a bit distracting. And we're going to do a yarn over, and we're working into the second stitch, putting your hook through, pulling your hook through, loop through, so you've got 3 stitches on your hook, and then yarn over and pulling it through the 3 stitches. So that's a half double crochet. So you're going to continue, and you know, the first row can often be a little tedious, but this is a fabulous thing to do as you're watching TV. Just do a lot of half double crochets. The reason I choose this stitch is because I really like the texture it produces. So make sure, I always put it just through the middle, the top loop into that hole there, and just don't miss a chain. I suggest you count. If you're working on the scarf, you'll end up with 300 stitches. If you're working on the wrap, it will be 360. So I will meet you at the end of the row. Continue working in half double crochet. Right, we have now finished row 1. Did you feel like that took forever? It is kind of long when it's lengthways, but ultimately it's less rows, so it's all good. and very good while you're doing something else, multitasking. So at the end of row 1, do 1 chain and then turn, and you're going to continue for rows 2, 3, 4 and 5. 4 more rows. You're going to continue half double crochet. So work into the first stitch, obviously not the chain. And this row will be a little easier because you've set that foundation now. Now I didn't do a foundation row here because we don't really need it to be stretchy. It's the side of the scarf, so it's fairly straightforward. So continuing to work in half double crochet for 4 more rows, and after 4 rows you'll see it looks like this section here. Okay, you can do it if you prefer it a bit wider, you can certainly do it wider, but that is the first section, rows 1 to 5 of the scarf. So when you've done that, we're going to continue next in row 6, which is row 1 of our actual pattern.
So we're starting row 1 of the pattern with chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to skip 1, 2 stitches, and we're going to do half a double crochet, US terms, pull through those 2, but leave 2 stitches on the hook, so don't complete it. And again into the same stitch, another half double crochet, pulling through 2 loops only, so you've got 3 loops left on the hook. Then yarn over and pull through the 3, so it's like a mini cluster. Then chain 2, then you're going to skip 1, 2 and do a double crochet into the 3rd stitch. So it looks like this, and then chain 3, might be going a little fast here, skip 2 and a single crochet into the next stitch. So you're making little hills and dales, I like to call them. So chain 3 to continue, skip 2 and do a double crochet into that 3rd stitch. So you'll be skipping 2 and working into the 3rd stitch all along this row. So that makes a little dip then. Then again, chain 2, and we've got another cluster in the middle, skip 2 and work into the 3rd stitch, work half a double crochet, 2 loops on the hook, and then another half of a double crochet, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 3, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the 3rd stitch, chain 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into that 3rd stitch there. So we've made another hill and we're down below. So it doesn't look too up and down in that section, but you will find that it will gradually, you've got the cluster in the middle of the hill, and you turn your work, and we're moving on to the next row now. So we're doing chain 2 and then we're working a cluster into the first double crochet there, so half a double crochet, then another half of a double crochet, a little bit jerky there, and pulling through the 3 loops. Now we're going to make our big shape here, so chain 7. You'll think this hole is really big, but it does work out well in the end, so don't panic. Yarn over, and you're going to work into the first double crochet there. You're working a cluster. This is to go with the cluster you've just done on the other side. So 2 half double crochets and then pulling through the 3 loops. Well, they're actually full double crochets, but you've got that shape there. Then chain 2 and you're working just double crochet 1 into the next cluster below. And then you'll find that you've got the opposite thing that was below in this row. So chain 2 now, and you've got a cluster below, sorry, you've got a double crochet below, so that means you're working a cluster into it. So you will find this is very repetitive, In this row, you're doing cluster, chain 7, chain 2 double crochet. So here we're doing chain 7 again, making our big geometric shape and jumping across 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to make a cluster into the next double crochet, and this makes our rather large geometric shape. So pulling through our 3 loops there, and you can see this is our 2 shapes with a cluster double crochet 1 and a cluster in the middle. So you're just going to repeat that until the end, and when you get to these last stitches, you can see we're going to make this final cluster into the final, or the second last double crochet there, to make our final geometric shape in this row. And then to finish off this row, it's chain 2, double crochet 1 into the cluster below, chain 2, and you're doing a cluster right on the end as you did one on the start in the turning chain, so count 3, it's the 3rd chain, that was chain 5 in the previous row, and you're just doing a cluster into the end of that row there. And now you've finished row 2 of the pattern. Now we're going to be moving along to row 3, and this is where we kind of finish off the geometric shape. So we're chaining 5, and that counts for 1 double crochet and a chain 2. Then you're going to do yarn over, and you're doing a cluster into the middle one this time, into the double crochet from the previous row. So if you want to have a look, you can see in the rows you've had a cluster in the first row, then a double crochet, then a cluster, then chain 2, and you're going to again do 1 double crochet into the cluster below, then you're doing another chain 2, and you're going to count 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the 4th chain from the previous row you're going to do a single crochet into that, chain 2, and again 1 double crochet into the cluster below, and it's really just repeat after that. We'll do a little bit more. You can see what the shape looks like now, slightly wonky on the left there, but you get the idea. Chain 2, and then again we've got the double crochet below, so we're doing a cluster in it. This is not always the case, but many of these rows you're going to do the opposite to what it was below. Chain 2 again, and again double crochet into the cluster below. So now you can see what this looks like. It's starting to take shape. So we've got our little kind of a hexagon, and then opposites, clusters and double crochets, and that's going to be the same for the rest of this row. So again, just doing a little bit more to show you, chain 2 and then count 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet into the 4th one there, and then chain 2 and another double crochet into the cluster. So you've got your second geometric shape all sorted. And once it's blocked, it looks really good. It's not blocked yet, so it doesn't look quite right yet. And here we are, we've finished this row. Now we're moving on to row 4 of the pattern, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 5, and we're going to this time work a cluster into the single crochet that's in the middle. So we're actually just changing the placement of the pattern, but we're going to be doing the same rows again, just in a different position. So you've got that cluster there above the single crochet from the previous row, chain 2, And this is the only row where we do a double crochet above a double crochet, just to confuse you. So chain 2, chain 3, and we're going down. This is similar to row 1, but it's just a different placement. So chain 3, making our little hill again, doing a double crochet into the double crochet below. And now you can see the same heels and dales that we had in the first row, but we are making them opposite. So we make the geometric pattern opposite. So we're doing a cluster here after chain 2 into the single crochet in the previous row. There you go. Sorry, can't see that very well there. I need to move that up a little bit in the camera. Oops, let's just move that up, pick it up again, chain 2, sorry about that. And then we're just doing a double crochet 1 into the double crochet below from the previous row. Chain 3, single crochet, chain 3, sorry, out of camera a little. And just going to show you what this row is now looking like. And I was completely out of camera here, so please forgive me. There it is. Moved it up again. Oops. Now, at the end of that row, we come right to the end after repeating that row. You finish off with that single crochet, chain 3, and just 1 double crochet into that final stitch of the row, which again is the turning stitch of the chain 5, the third one. You can count it up 1, 2, 3. So you finish off with a little hill. And that's the end of row 4, which was similar to row 1. So obviously row 5 is going to be similar to row 2. Again, it will be the same thing, but just in a different placement. We're now making the big geometric shapes in the alternate spaces. So we're going to start the row with a cluster into our first double crochet there, because we're making our geometric shape right at the start. So we'll start with a cluster. You must be getting pretty good at these stitches by now because it's very repetitive. And then we're doing chain 7, skipping 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, sorry, my yarn got caught there. 5, 6, 7. Sometimes your yarn just gets caught. It's a little tricky when you're on camera. Then we're skipping the 5 and we're doing the same as you did before, where you're working the second cluster to make the other side of the geometric shape into the double crochet from the previous row. So it's actually the same as before. If you're starting to get a sense of deja vu, and I'm starting to not be able to get my hook into here, then we'll pull through that cluster and you can see again the same geometric shape, but just really at the start this time and slightly out of the camera. That's better. Thank you very much. Right, so just to continue, that row is going to be the same. Chain 2, double crochet into the cluster below, and again after that double crochet, chain 2 and back into the cluster shape for the double crochet. So it'll be cluster, chain 7, cluster, the bit in the middle, and repeat till the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My yarn is really not cooperating here. You can see I'm about to make the other side with the cluster there. So we're basically doing the same pattern again, but it's just alternating. It's in a different space, so it looks better with the alternate pattern. So this is the cluster on the other side, and just continue along. Chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, cluster, continue, continue. See you at the end of row 5. So we've finished row 5 with a cluster right on the end. Now we're doing our final pattern row, which is row 6, which is again very similar to row 3 of the pattern. You will find that I'm getting my yarn stuck here, so I'm going to start off with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chain, which counts as a double crochet and a chain 2, and you can see we're going to do the alternate cluster here into the middle above the double crochet, so it's kind of a repeat of that row below. Cluster and then chain 2, so we're sort of doing the top of the shape here. We're going to do a double crochet into the cluster, and then you can see that they're all opposite in this row. Pretty straightforward. Chain 2, and this is where we count and do 1, 2, 3, 4 and single crochet again. You have done this row before, but it's just in a slightly different place. Chain 2, again double crochet into the cluster. It's a pretty straightforward row, this one, and then it's just chain 2, cluster, chain 2, double crochet, continue to the end, and you've nearly completed the pattern. So chain 2 and cluster. There we go. So you can see the geometric pattern starting to take shape. Chain 2, double crochet into the cluster, and so on and so forth. You can see how that's looking now. So hopefully yours is looking the same. And here we are at the end. After I've done that final pattern row, I've done 5 more rows of half double crochet. This is how we do 2 half double crochet into each space, 1 into the stitch. So 1, 2, then 1 into the single crochet, 2 in the space, 1 in the double crochet, 2 in the space, 1 in the cluster. So just as many stitches as we have, so it works out the same. Then you do 5 rows, and that's what we did for the scarf, which I just repeated one more time again. And then of course we had the wrap, and you can see this is a lot wider, but it's the same thing again. I've repeated the pattern here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kind of sections there. You can really repeat it as many times as you want. Oops, there's a crochet hook stuck. And I'm also going to tell you how to work out this twisted fringe now. It's about so to start the twisted fringe, we just keep the yarn, don't cut the yarn off, work into the first stitch with a single crochet, and then you're going to pull the loop. You can see I'm pulling it, and I'm using an exercise book to measure, so I'm pulling it as long as the exercise book, which is A4. Then you're going to wind around your fingers 25 times, and I'm holding it on the left with 2 fingers so it doesn't pull out, and I'm twisting on the right. So once you've twisted 25 times, you're holding it tightly on the left, then you're going to carefully fold it in half. Hold both hands with your left hand, and then let it go to let it twist. You can twist it a little bit more manually here. I haven't done it with this one. Then to finish off one of these fringes, you reinsert the hook, put it through the stitch, the same one that you started with, and do a slip stitch, and that completes one of the twisted fringes. And then you just continue. So I'll show you another one. So doing a single crochet, pulling that loop through as you hold onto it, measuring it so it's the same length as the other one, which is the length of an A4. You can do whatever length you like. Winding it 25 times, holding the left tightly and winding with your fingers on the right. So counting to 25. Once you get to 25, again, you're going to fold it in half very carefully. Hold it on both ends there. Let it twist. If it's not twisted enough, in this one you can see I've twisted it a little more. You can twist it further, and even manually at the end there, twist it around a few times. Don't over twist it though. Putting your hook back into the loop you've just twisted, whoops, made a mistake there, back into the loop, and then also back into the same stitch, and then pulling the yarn through, so you've got 2 loops, and then pulling it through that loop, and then continuing on in a similar manner. So you can see those 2 there, and if you continue that way along the end and then do the other end, try to have the same amounts, you'll end up with a fringe like this. So there we go, and the scarf is completed. Thanks so much.